And welcome back to Trip to the Mound. We are the iBaseballChannel podcast, live and on stage here at Silva Ford. Again, we've got all the atmospheric sound going on. You people might have heard the PA announcements going on through some of this, but again, we wanted this to be a live and unrehearsed experience, and I think it's been a fun one so far.
Oh yeah, it's great.
Yeah,
a lot of action in here.
Yeah. And so again, the last thing that we're going to be bringing up today is, you briefly mentioned this at the beginning of the week, we're now going to have a weekly segment that focuses on the mound, and it's called the Pitch Your Ass Off segment.
Pitch Your Ass Off.
Yeah, and before we get into who won it, again, there has been some pretty outstanding performances. Johnny Cueto of the Reds had a great opening day start against the Cardinals. Yesterday, we saw a pretty interesting thing where Braves pitcher Aaron Harang and the Brewers' Matt Garza both took no-hitters into the seventh inning.
Wainwright.
Yeah.
Good game.
Scott Kazmir had a great game yesterday for the Oakland Athletics, went 7 2/3.
Yep.
Or 7 1/3, I'm sorry. 3 hits, no runs, 5 Ks. You know, Oakland showing another veteran starter that they've added to the mix.
Yes.
Yeah. Is there anybody else that you've seen before we unveil our winner this week?
Well, there's some guys that had some other pretty good outings. You know, Chris Sale from the White Sox had a pretty good outing. King Felix, after he gave up those 2 runs the other night, he just pretty much tightened the old noose around that, and that was the end of that. But that was back. But we were trying to get it kind of off the ground on our little program here, and then get some games rolling where we can have a chance to look forward and see who the matchups really are.
Yeah.
So now they're starting to come out, and teams are settling into their rotations and whatnot. So.
But again, there was really one that stood out to us, and it's the one we've been talking about most of the morning leading up to it.
I mentioned him this morning a little earlier.
Yeah. So again, our first Pitch Your Ass Off winner for this first week in baseball is.
And wait a minute, and of course we are favoring the West Coast team. So how you like that?
Yeah.
Sorry about you guys pitching on the East Coast, but you're gonna have to really pitch your ass off to get the nod from the West Coast boys here. So our winner is
Tim Hudson.
Tim Hudson.
San Francisco Giants starter, made a fantastic debut in Arizona last night. 7 2/3 innings, no runs, 3 hits, 7 Ks, and just what I saw, just complete command of what he was doing out there.
Well, he got out of a jam too in the last inning. He was out there. He got out of a jam. You know some of the underlying problems and issues he's been dealing with the injury and his age and so forth. And the guy goes out there with an 89, 90 mile an hour sinker and shuts him down.
Yeah.
Not that easy to do.
And reminiscent of the same effectiveness that Tim Hudson. That's who you got to call him.
It's our friend over here. Wow.
The stuff that Tim Hudson was doing out there was very reminiscent of how he was throwing in Oakland. I mean, great command of that sinker ball. Doesn't seem to ever really let anybody get too big of a beat on him. And this just seems to be his pitching DNA through most of his career.
Right. And when you see hitters now, when you take that kind of a threat from them, trying to get their arms extended to take you out of the ballpark, and we saw it happen. They got some hits, but they weren't home runs. They actually said, well, I'm going to have to take the guy the other way, and they hit some balls down to right field. They were hits, but he got out of it.
Yeah.
See?
Yeah.
And so that's a sign of a guy that knows what he's doing out there with his stuff, and his mechanics are good. He does throw some pitches sometimes, but because he has to pitch around some guys, he does, but he does have this guy throws 4 pitches up there and moves them all around both sides of the plate.
Yeah.
And he was just on last night, and so he got the nod from me.
Yeah, I mean, only 100. I think it was like 103 pitches in 7 2/3 innings. So great command and great use of it. But what is it? To be an effective, and I think this is something for the younger kids that are listening out there, to be an effective sinker ball pitcher. How do you effectively set up that pitch? Because you can't just throw it I assume you can't just throw it.
Well, what you're trying to do is with the sinker is you want them to swing the bat. So you're trying to force them to hit your sinker as soon as possible. So you have to establish that you're a strike thrower, number one. So you got to throw strikes, and if you're and I've mentioned this before, if you're constantly getting ahead of hitters with strike one, that you start putting the heat and the pressure on them, because as the game goes on, they don't want to be. They're going to start looking, and if he throws me, I'm going to jump on it because I don't want to be hitting 0-1 and 0-2 or 1-2.
Yeah.
They don't like that. Now you're getting into making them uncomfortable, and so one of the keys of throwing a sinker ball is to get ahead, strike one, and then to be able to run the ball in on right-handers, to tie them up so that they can't extend their arms, to backdoor the left-handers, jump which you see Greg Maddux used to do routinely with the backdoor. Then you go away with the sinker. You run the sinker off the plate to the left-handers. They give up on it, and then you backdoor them with the breaking ball because they see it out there. They give up on it. It comes back over the plate for a strike. You have to be able to do stuff like that. You have to be able to what we call walk them, not up the ladder, but down the ladder. If you get away with strike one, mid-thigh, now strike two is going to be at the knees, and hopefully strike three or ground ball is you just keep going down and see how far they'll chase down with your sinker.
That's what you saw with a lot of his strikeouts last night, where it seemed like the bottom was just falling out.
Well, those were changeups, some of those.
Oh, okay.
Some of those are changeups. They're swinging over the top of that. But yes, the good sinkers down, the same thing. They're over, and you see them jumping on some of the pitches.
Yeah.
And just taking it. He's locking them up where they can't anticipate the movement. They give up on it, and it comes backdoor.
Yeah. And it's funny you mentioned the Greg Maddux reference, because that was something that I was thinking a lot about as well when you're talking about that perfect placement of your pitches. I mean, he was not a guy that overpowered people, but he just knew where to put it in a place where the hitter wanted to swing at it, but still wasn't able to really get the good wood on it, so to speak.
But guess what he did when he needed it the most to get out of the jam? Guess what he got? Double play. Right back, got that double play ball, I believe. Boom, 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 and he got out of that inning.
Yeah.
See, and that saves you. That's the one thing good about being a sinker ball pitcher, is that if you can't strike somebody out, you do have a good chance of getting somebody to hit the ball on the ground.